Now, I made a video a few months ago about American politicians openly saying to the media that it was their intent to destroy BYD. I'll put a link in the description to that video. I'm not making this up. It's actually what they said publicly. And this is another example of them trying to do that. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans. I'm coming to you here from Australia. Very hot part of Australia right now. It's our summer here and I'm on the Gold Coast. It's a beautiful place to be on the beach. The beach is just 100 meters over the road. And my son and I went for a bit of a surf on the bodyboard. He just started to learn and he's really loved it. Had a great time today. Just thought I'd share that with you. Now, I just want to say a big thank you, big shout out to patrons of the channel. I'll put a link in the description below to how you can become a patron and also to members of the channel. If you want to become a member and see our videos before everyone else, then you can do that. I'll put a link in the description for you to do that. Now, BYD has been excluded from infrastructure funding because it is Chinese. Now, Steve Hanley, one of my favorite journalists from Clean Technica, reports that the Biden administration wants more electric vehicles on American roads. So long as they're American. Hang on a minute. What's going on? Why for the last 2 years have the American government been giving money to Volkswagen and Audi and Hyundai and Nissan, all non-American companies, to sell EVs in America? It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, that said, they don't seem to have a problem with those companies, but they do have a problem with BYD, and they do have a problem with Chinese car companies. Now, I think it's mostly political, but anyway, it is what it is. Now, to be fair, the Biden administration wants EVs to be built and manufactured in the United States, and it wants them to be built by union workers. Now, I personally think that the Biden administration should be putting more pressure on Ford and General Motors and Stellantis to actually build their vehicles in America. I know they're going to give them an incentive to do so, but it's not a big difference in terms of if you do or you don't. So I personally think that that is a mistake because GM and Ford and Stellantis, a lot of their vehicles are built in Mexico or in other countries outside of the United States. So I think that should be the priority. And when I say that because BYD built their vehicles in the United States, and that provides jobs, and yet they are being penalized anyway. Now, BYD has a bus and truck factory in Lancaster, California, where it also makes batteries for the vehicles it manufactures. So I just made a video, right, about 15 different battery factories that are going to be built or that are already being built in the United States. Now, that doesn't include BYD's battery factory as well. Now, California is still in the United States. BYD is building buses and batteries in the United States and being penalized for doing so. Now, the interesting thing is that all of the workers at BYD's factories in the United States are members of a labor union. Now, that should make BYD high on the list of companies that the Biden administration and the Democrats want to reward in the latest infrastructure funding bill. Well, you'd think it would anyway, right? But unfortunately, politics are getting in the way. So the Washington Post has just reported that a ban on federal transit funding for manufacturers linked to China goes into effect in 3 days from now. That ban may prevent BYD from selling its electric buses to public transit agencies across the entire country of the United States. Frank Girardo, a BYD spokesperson, described the company as a global business with American investors that happens to be headquartered in China. Now, if you don't already know, the biggest investor in BYD is Warren Buffett. And obviously, a lot of Americans own stock in Berkshire Hathaway, who own 8% of BYD, the company. Now, BYD spokesperson Frank says that the company is being unfairly targeted by the United States government. We're not China, he said. We're a private company. We're a union company. Now, I've made a video about this before, right? And I explained how Chinese companies, some of them are state-owned. That's correct. And those companies, you might be able to say they're China. But there are many companies in China that are not state-owned, have nothing to do with the state government, the national government, whatever you want to call it, the Republic of China, and therefore are not the government. And I still get people commenting in the comments below, BYD, that's the Chinese government, we can't support them. I'm like, did you watch my video, guys? You didn't watch it. Watch and listen. BYD is a private company. They have nothing to do with the Chinese freaking government. Unless you can support some evidence and facts towards your assertion that BYD is the Chinese government, then just shut up. Please don't comment that. Please don't make those comments. I know most of you are not doing it. So this is not for most of you. This is for the select few Muppets that make these comments. Now, federal transit officials say the funding ban won't slow the transition to electric buses, but that is obviously 100% false. BYD is a huge player in the electric bus industry, a huge player in the electric transit industry, a huge player in the electric truck industry as well. Almost every purchase of electric buses is subsidized by federal, state, or local funding. Excluding BYD does make it look like the Biden administration isn't really 100% committed to electric vehicles, that it's more about politics for them, that it's more about presenting the image of caring, but not actually caring. Why do I say that? Well, it's true that BYD is the world's biggest electric bus manufacturer, right? Their buses are extremely good. The batteries are so good that they're actually used after the bus's usable life is finished. People use them in energy storage after that. And they're relatively affordable, and they're employing people in the United States to build them, and now they're being penalized. So yes, it will slow down the transition of getting these dirty, stinking, soot-creating, diesel, disgusting buses off the roads and converting them and having electric buses in place of them instead, which is extremely important in my view. Now, Senator Sherrod Brown, says CleanTechnica, is chairman of the Banking, Housing and Urban Affairs Committee. He says he doesn't take levying restrictions on a unionized company lightly. It's simply a false choice to think that the deployment of electric buses means we must rely upon Chinese state-supported enterprises in perpetuity. Plenty of electric pollution-free buses can and will be made in the US, including by US-owned companies. American taxpayer dollars will not be used to prop up companies tied to the Chinese government. Does that mean Brown is for or against the ban? It's kind of hard to tell from this statement that he's given out. Clearly he's just playing politics, right? Well, the question I have for you, right, is should we ban all electric vehicles or all vehicles that are either made in China or have parts made in them from China? Because a lot of cars have battery cells made in China. Should we ban those as well? I mean, how far do we take this? Now, the word is that competitors are licking their chops. In other words, they're going, okay, well, now we have a huge advantage. Bang, we'll take some of these orders that BYD are going to lose. Now, BYD's competitors are looking at all those federal dollars that they're going to get, and they can't wait to throw BYD under the bus, literally, of course. It makes sense, as you would do if you're a private company. Get as much business as you can. Now, Proterra spokesperson Shane Levy said his company has the capacity to build 680 buses a year at its factories in South Carolina and California. The transition to zero-emission transportation is fully achievable on an aggressive timeline, he said. However, the thing is, BYD has the capacity to build twice as many just in the United States alone. Now, in a statement, the Federal Transit Administration said the agency is confident the industry is capable of supporting transit agencies looking to procure electric vehicles to convert to electric buses or expand their electric fleets. But Dan Rodebor, Executive Director of the Center for Transportation and Environment, which is backed by BYD, Proterra and New Flyer, says not being able to access federal money will have a significant impact. He said, BYD has been one of the largest manufacturers of electric buses currently in the market in the United States. So the impact to supply will be significant in the short term. From a long-term perspective, the funding ban reduces the available competition that reduces cost and drives innovation. It reduces the available competition that reduces costs and drives innovation. That is the key issue here. Once you start to exclude your main competition, what happens? The local guys, what do? They raise prices. Do they innovate? Probably less. That is the key here that I see. Now, Steve Hanley says that the degree of fear and paranoia about China may remind many of the heady days when people all over America were rushing to Washington to tattle to the House Un-American Activities Committee and tail gunner Joe McCarthy about the unpatriotic thoughts and deeds of their colleagues. Indeed, McCarthyism is a legacy that I believe still hangs over the United States like a dark cloud. It was a time of witch hunting and insanity that took hold of the United States in a way that I believe should never ever happen again. Now, with the current climate in the United States and in many other countries, including Australia, yep, I can see the potential for McCarthyism coming back again. Things could get ugly very quickly. And not having Chinese-made electric cars in the United States is not going to benefit consumers. What do Chinese cars benefit the people in the United States with? Well, lower prices. They push the prices of other electric vehicle manufacturers down. They drive competition. They drive innovation. Once you have to compete, what do? If you're legacy auto, you go, well, okay, we're in trouble. We're going to have to compete. Sure, it's going to be slow for them to make changes at General Motors and Ford and the other companies, but they will make them because they'll have to. But if you exclude those other auto manufacturers, what do? They probably do what Tesla's been doing, just to keep on increasing prices. Why are they increasing prices? Because they can. There's not enough competition. And their order books are as long as hell, so they just keep on increasing prices. If you exclude all the automakers from China, then that could potentially continue to happen. Now, Steve Hanley says, does anyone know Geely? A Chinese company. They own Volvo and Polestar. And remember, both Volvo and General Motors sell cars manufactured in China in the United States. Don't let Congress find out about that. And what do you think China might do as a retaliation? Could they say, well, hey, General Motors, Ford, Jeep, Chrysler, guys, guess what? You're no longer making cars in China. We're going to do the same thing back to you. And just think how many cars that would be. Have you seen the numbers? It's a lot. American car companies make a lot of cars in China. Now, it's very possible the Chinese government could issue reprisals, and that would not be a good thing. This tit for tat going backwards and forwards, I don't think it's really going to benefit anyone in the long run. But tell me what you think in the comment section below. How do you see all of this playing out? Thanks for watching the video. I look forward to seeing you again on the next one. Bye-bye.